welcome to this SQL basic session. Today we are going to talk about SQL for everyone. What is the importance of SQL? How we can start with SQL. So before we get started with today's agenda, let me help you with my introduction also. So my complete name is Shalini Gupta and I am Microsoft certified trainer. I'm working on trainings, technical trainings last 18 years and having good exposure towards Power Platform, Power BI technologies. In addition to the Power BI, yeah, thank you. So Power BI and Power Platform, I have done my certification in Azure Data Science, Azure Development, and Azure AI Engineering as well. I have done my certification in Big Data Analytics. If I talk about my skill set, I have done various trainings on programming languages and SQL Server also. So this is about my profile. And if you wanted to connect with me and if you wanted to stay updated with upcoming technology and upcoming trainings, you can connect with me on LinkedIn also. So it's a great opportunity today where we would be talking about SQL and it's a live session. So the benefit is whatever queries you might have, you are free to ask in the session as well. So this is about me. Let me start. Today we are going to talk about database, or you can say there is a difference between database and database management system, DBMS. So we are going to talk about both of the things. Give me a moment. I'll just hold my pen also. Yeah. And we will be talking about types of database users. And our focus will be on SQL today. Begin with SQL. How you can begin with SQL, because it's just a 1 hour session, so I have some mindset that at least we would be covering some practical also, not only the theory part, little bit theory and little bit practical as well. So that is the agenda for the today's session. In addition, I would like to highlight this. If you wanted to register for any other upcoming webinars, could be free webinars, could be paid webinars, or upcoming batches, you can visit our site ytta.in and get yourself registered. Database is like a storage we consider. If we are dealing with data, let me give you a very simple example. Suppose I am going to a school and I'm supposed to collect the student data. What would be my process? Could be if I don't have my digital format of data, like I'm not carrying my laptop or I'm not allowed to store the data using mobile also, then I might be creating a database in physical format on paper, right? And it would be a tabular format. Whenever you are talking about storage, you mean you are going to store data and in a format of some table. Always a thought comes as a table, right? So you will be thinking about, okay, student details you wanted to store. You will be storing the student name, student email ID, student phone number, student address, or others details also. So whenever we are saying we are going to store data, it becomes a database. So let me give you a small detail here. What is a database? So we say a database is a collection of related data. So when I'm saying student data, every point which I'm storing in my data sheets, it becomes a database because I'm storing everything in a related data. Another point I would like to highlight, it is organized into a logical structure to provide efficient retrieval. Now, what we want, database is, if it is moving towards the digital world, it becomes a digital storage. So I want to have, maybe I might be using Excel file. In the Excel file also, I can create a small database, right? So the data which I'm collecting in the format of anything, it could be electronic item, electronic detail, printed details, audio. These days, we are running into the AI culture, right? In case of AI, we have lots of data, and those data, when I'm collecting, it becomes itself a database. So it's like a arrangement where you're putting lots of data in a logical structure manner. That is a database. And general, if I talk about, there is an organization required. So in terminology, when we talk about database organization, there are some basic terminology which we refer to. Number one is table. As I mentioned, whenever a first thought comes that I am going to store some details, I am going to create a table. And when we talk about a table, we will definitely think about columns and what records we are going to store into. So these are some terminology when we deal with database. We are going to have a table, and under the table, we are going to have columns, the column names we would be deciding. And with respect to those columns, we are going to create a record. So these are some basic terminology which we definitely dealt with. Now, as I mentioned, we need a better way to retrieve our data. We need a better way to process our data. So therefore, there is a need of DBMS. So what is a DBMS if I talk about? DBMS is database management system, which is nothing, it's also a kind of application which we can install in our machine, or these days we have a concept of cloud. So cloud storage, cloud management. So we can use of cloud-based applications also, which are there in the cloud as a DBMS, and we can use those database management system to make our data store and make the data really accessible anywhere, anytime. So what is a DBMS if I talk about? It is an application which is providing us access towards the database where we can allow the users to add the records, to modify the records, to delete, to retrieve the data altogether. So, as I mentioned, these days we have another new concept coming into the picture, which is cloud. So, basically, I would say DBMS can be at two platforms. What are those two platforms? One is on premises, and second is on cloud. So, when I'm talking about this database management system, it can be either or it can be both. So, depending on the organization, maybe in whatever organization you are working, they are also maintaining their own database management system. So, if they are using their own management database system within their own organization, they are maintaining their server, then it would be considered as on premises. However, if they are using cloud, so what all cloud services are available? Let me give you some example. Like you might have heard Azure. It's a Microsoft cloud. You might have heard about Google. You might have heard about AWS. So these are giant in the cloud world. So Azure is a Microsoft product which is providing us cloud services. Google, you might have heard about Google Cloud. And we have even Azure Web Services based cloud as well, where we can have our database. So we can have our database management system at cloud, and then we can store our data in the format of table, columns, and records. So basically, a DBMS helps to define schema, maybe sometimes sub-schema in a database. There would be some relationships between different data elements. For an example, suppose I wanted to create not only the student table, I wanted to create a teacher table also. And then I wanted to have a relationship between teacher and student table, that one teacher is handling multiple students. So there is a relationship, right? One teacher is handling many students. So those relationships can also be built easily in the database management system. It allows to enter and manipulate data in database. And even it has the permission set that you can restrict the unauthorized access to the database. Once your data is there, how would you retrieve the data? So here comes the introduction layer, that is SQL. SQL is structured query language. And this SQL is becoming so important if you are choosing any domain. If you are deciding you are going to on premises, I'll just take it again. So if I talk about SQL, structured query language, structured query language is a language which is helping everywhere. If you wanted to start with the database management, then also you need SQL. If you wanted to go into the data engineering line, then also SQL would help you. Even if you wanted to go into the ML, machine learning, and then if you are using Google platform, BigQuery platform, then also you can make use of SQL language to do your machine learning also. So structured query language, having that knowledge is going to help you a lot, definitely. This is about the database management system. Now, what type of users are there when we talk about DBMS? So you can think about your role as a database administrator. Although today's session is going to focus upon SQL part, but when you are dealing with SQL, you're definitely somewhere dealing with database also, somewhere. Okay. So you might be a database administrator role. You might be in some role where you are designing the database from the scratch. You can be system analyst. Or these days we have another role coming here when we talk about SQL part, that is data engineering. You can go for data engineering role. Why not? Learning SQL opens up the door for you. Okay. And definitely there is another category that is end user. So data engineer can be the part of users who are actually most of the time using SQL language to fetch the data which is required to get the answers done. So how to begin with this database management system and how to start writing SQL? Let me quickly show you a small demonstration. I believe my screen is visible. I'm going to use my Azure platform. I'm creating an SQL database. As my focus is on the SQL part, I'm not talking about the steps here much. That's what I'm doing in the Azure platform. I'm just creating an SQL database here. MySQL DB. Let me put it as my DB. I'm looking for the authentication. So now I'm going to say okay. I wanted to have a connectivity as public endpoint so that if I share this to you, you will be also able to access it. Now I'm looking for a sample database also. Although if I go for none, I will be able to create a database from the scratch. Right now, I'm not focusing upon how to create a database from scratch. I'm just activating the sample database. Now I say review and create. Let it create the database. So mean So once it gets created, I'll show you how to start writing SQL in itself. Now it is completed. So if you wanted to follow us, you can follow us at YTTA Learning on YouTube. You can subscribe to us and you can get more session recordings also. Now, here, if you look at, we have this query editor. So if I go to the query editor, just visit our site. Okay, I'm trying to enter. See, I'm getting some error. As I mentioned, it is very secured. It would not allow everyone to access my data. Actually, I'm trying to access my database management system from my IP address. I have to tell it that this IP address has to be allowed. So I click on allow list IP address. And once I have allowed it, I'm able to log in into this platform, which is a query editor. So basically, using this query editor, I would be able to write SQL statement. Specifically talk about SQL statement, we have various kind of SQL statement. There are mainly three categories. I should mention it also. So what are the three categories? Basically, we have DML statement, data manipulation language. We have DDL statement, data definition language, and we have this data query language where we mainly focus upon the querying the database. So here, today I'm going to focus upon the querying the database. So if I go to this tables, you can see there are lots of tables available, right? Suppose I wanted to fetch the details from the product table itself. So there is a way to write a command. So what I wanted to do, actually I wanted to select everything from this particular table. So I have a command, select, select what? Everything. So there is a notation star. Okay. So I said select star from which table? I can say, you can see it is giving me the help also because I'm using this platform. I just selected my table and I put a semicolon and I executed my query. And you can see here every detail on the list, right? Now I wanted to filter my records. I can see here there are lots of products coming, okay? And I wanted to see only those records which are of black color. So let's do a filtration. I say I wanted to see all the records from this product table where color is black. Now you can see I got my results for the black products only. Okay. Now there are so many records I got. Let's say I wanted to have a count of these records. So there are various other notations also. I'm just showing you some demonstrations so that you can understand that learning queries can help you to get your answers. I say count star. So actually there are 89 records for the black color. Let's see what all. So I wanted to see only colors from this table. So I wanted to see distinct color from this table. So actually have one blank also and rest all these colors I'm having actually black, blue, gray, right? So these are all products which I am able to work upon. So suppose if I wanted to see white color products, yellow color products. Now let's explore the category also. I say select star from sales product category. So there are product categories. These are product categories which we have, right? Now, if I observe my tables more deeply, I look at my products. These are columns I am having. And if I look at my product categories, so I'm just trying to figure it out whether do I have any connection between the product and product category table. So I observe here that yes, in the product table, I have the product category ID, which is having the relationship with the product category ID of the product category table, which makes sense, right? It means one product category may have multiple products. So suppose I wanted to see how many products are there in the bikes category where the product ID is matching, right? So let's see here. I have all bikes data only where the product category ID is one, which is bikes. Okay. So this way we can do it basically. So I've just taken few of the example that you can bring everything. Let's say now I don't want to bring everything. I just wanted to bring the product name. So I can put column specifically that prod dot name. I wanted to just see the product names. So these all products are there under that bikes category. Okay, so learning SQL could be really easy. It totally depends on how much you practice. So we need to start how to create a database also and how to query the database basically. So there are various commands which you need to learn. We have various commands. So let me show you what you can learn in more deep manner. Allow me a minute. I'll just share my screen. So we will be starting from the very basic that what is SQL. Today's session definitely have given you some idea what is SQL. We will be covering it in more detail. Then we would be talking about some database basics also because knowing the database basics will definitely help you. So what is primary key? What is foreign key? What kind of relationships are possible? Like one, one to many to many. What kind of relationships are possible? And how to create these relationships using the commands that we will also cover. So therefore, I mentioned there are categories of SQL, DML, DQL, and DDL. So we would be covering all these commands that how to create, how to insert, select, update, and delete. We will be doing lots of where clause commands as well, because when we move towards this data engineering line, we actually require to fetch the data from big databases. So how to put the where clause, what kind of modification we need to do. So we would be putting lots of example on where clause. Other than the where clause, we have some basic functions which we must know. That is aggregate functions, SQL operators are there. So how to make use of those functions. Then we will be also talking about joins. I have not talked about joins here. So we have joins concept, how to go by the joins, how to implement the joins, what to expect in what kind of join. We will be covering that also. And yes, definitely subqueries and nested queries, which is a very important concept which we always look forward to. We will also introduce you towards views. That from the big database, I'm just extracting one of the part as a view. So how to talk about views? We will be also looking at group by and having clause, which is a very good platform to think about to group the data. For an example, if I was looking at colors, so I wanted to see the aggregation of objects color wise. So it's like a grouping. Okay. So how to use group by clause and how to filter the grouped data by having clause, that we will also understand. So this is all we are going to cover. And even we will also talk about the constraints that when you are creating your own database, let's say you are planning that you wanted to have your own setup of database. So how to put the constraints into your database management system, that we will also talk about. So this all course we can cover for you, which is a 12 hours course only. Okay. This is a 12 hours course. If you wanted to learn about it, you can definitely look forward to it.